Hey, good morning, everyone. Scott Zambelli here with Odd Musings. 2 weeks in a row without Brett. Last week he had a really fun opportunity to go visit the Detroit Lions training camp, I believe, with a VIP package. So he'll be back next week to talk more about that. And then this week, him and Kevin Meinert are on the road to Tampa Bay Comic-Con. That's this weekend. So if you're going to be in the Tampa Bay area, look for Brett Pinson and Kevin Meinert at the Bardstone Publishing booth. They're going to have a lot of our graphic novels, trading Crimson Shadows trades available, and other great merch. So go check them out. You won't be disappointed. And then and as far as today goes, we're going to have a fun little talk about, we're going to dive into some conspiracy theories, or things that used to be conspiracy theories. Are they still conspiracy theories, or are they true? We'll see. But we're going to get into weather manipulation. I thought I'd talk about this today because I don't know about you guys, but I think our weather has been very odd this year for Michigan. Our rain patterns have been not typical at all around here. So I thought I would bring up some interesting things I have found over the last year and a half or so and share some of those with you. But first, let's talk real estate just really quick. I'm going to post our phone number there, Team Titans Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right, Team Titans Real Estate. Even though we utilize the latest in tools and technology to maximize your home buying and selling experience, we never forget, at its core, it's still a people business. A lot of our industry keeps modernizing and making it more and more electronic, which further decouples us from you, the actual client. And it's the human touch that really makes a difference. You can use websites that are popular online to get into the ballpark of maybe what your value is, but rarely are they pretty accurate. They can be influenced greatly by a number of factors that a computer just can't tell. That's why we come out to your house, do an evaluation of your home, and give you a value specific to your home in comparison to the homes that are of similar qualities in your area. So give us a call, 586-232-5144. Jill Webler and I are here for you. So I want to talk a little bit about the weather and what is being done. Is it even safe? Who knows? You may or may not recall earlier this year out in, I believe it was Saudi Arabia, there was massive rainfall that was happening, and they got like a year and a half's worth of rain in 24 hours, and it was massive flooding that they got hit with. And they ended up admitting that this was due to cloud seeding. They were manipulating the weather, and I don't know if it was a miscalculation or what, but they created rain and created way too much. And so it caused flooding. And it brings up some interesting points, even real estate related, things like flooding, rain, those are considered what's called acts of God. And a lot of times insurance doesn't cover it. There's no one you can sue. But if government entities and private entities are up there and purposely manipulating the weather, the question becomes, do you have a lawsuit? How do we know if we have excessive rain? Was it just a weather event, or did somebody do something to the weather and change it? It's a good question, and how do we know? If governments are manipulating the weather, what does that do? Because weather manipulation can happen on many different levels. And the particular site I'm going to be referencing is NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's website. And they have, when you go to their About Us page, they have an active role in fighting climate change. They are actively trying to end it, which, depending on what camp you are in, you may be happy with that. You may not. I'm in the camp that the Earth has its own ecosystem and its own ebbs and flow. When you look at the true history of the weather, a lot of times they'll talk about how we are at our warmest July on record, for instance, and they'll talk about that. But when you look at the range they're using a range that's only a couple hundred years old. But if you look at a much longer period of time, we're actually much cooler than other points in history. And we're much warmer than other points of history because, we've had ice ages, we've had tropical ages. But even now, the warmest on record, we're not anywhere near the high end of what they've been able to determine from from studying past environments that we had. Like, there was much higher levels of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide in the air. Animals and creatures were much larger. Dinosaurs, for instance, like with our current atmospheric makeup, they say that the creatures couldn't get as large nowadays as back then because of the content of oxygen and everything else that's in the air. So times have changed, but on record, it's been much warmer in the past than ever before. We also have natural occurrences of things that alter the environment. For instance, with our Crimson Shadow series, we have Frankenstein in there, and part of that is we mix the fictional world of Crimson Shadows into the true history of the world, and Mary Shelley is part of that history that we include. But that year that she wrote Frankenstein, it was a very cold year. It was the year without a summer because there was a volcano that went off, and I'm going off the top of my head, so forgive me for not having the name of the volcano in the year. But the year prior, a massive volcanic eruption happened like a third of the way around the world. And it was so big and so much ash went into the air, it blocked out the sun. It was like a nuclear winter for a whole year. And it cooled the Earth's temperatures down. And because it was so cool and dingy outside, the sun looked, was blocked out by a lot of ash in the atmosphere. Global temperatures dropped, and a lot of people weren't doing anything, so they were indoors a lot. So that's where we got so many really cool horror classics during that summer with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Vampires were created, and a number of other classics came out of that time period. So natural events can happen that will alter things. So there's so many factors when you go in, and a lot of times they want to talk about global warming and our cars, but when you look at the output of just one volcanic eruption compared to our driving, we don't even come close. So I'm in the camp that there is a natural ebb and flow. I do think, we still have to be good stewards of our planet. God put us here to take care of it. So we, it doesn't mean just pollute and do whatever you want. But we also have to understand our limits. As a country, we're trying to do a lot of things to fix the climate, but our production of waste and greenhouse gases is nothing compared to countries like India and China, who are usually exempt from those global climate change contracts and treaties. So, there's so much that has to be done. But anyways, that's just to say there's the planet is huge, and we have an ecosystem that ebbs and flows. It's not a machine that is just set to one constant rate. Things change. Anyways, with that said, we have activists who are within our government and other entities who want to actively combat climate change, even though they have no proof of the sources of certain things. Beyond just natural ebb and flow. And they also have no proof as to whether their methods are even safe. And so one of the things I want to get into here that is from the National Oceanic Group, the NOAA, is, let me pull it up here. This is a contract that I downloaded straight from their website. It's convoluted how to find it, and unfortunately, I don't have the path. I had to write down the path of the contract because you have to go through like 10 different links to get to it. But this is a real contract that is signed by NOAA. Okay. And this is quite interesting to see. So what you have here is, let me see if I can get the actual window onto my page so I can scroll down a little bit. Looks like there's, how do I get down there? Let me minimize this. There we go. I'm going to zoom out just a hair so you can see the signatures too. There we go. All right. So this is a contract that was signed March 31st of 2023. Okay. This is on the NOAA website, noaa.gov, NOAA.gov. I will try to find, like I said, you got to go through 10 different links within their website to get to their contracts page. It's kind of buried because I imagine they don't want people just pulling up the contracts whenever. But the important thing to check out here is box number 1 up near the upper left there. The project activity, the purpose of this contract is labeled as cooling the earth. Okay. The purpose is to reduce the average global temperature. That's what it says there. Okay. And I'm going to show other things too. This isn't made up. I've got articles from Time Magazine I'm going to share and others. They also have printouts of this same contract in their articles. So this isn't me making this up and finding something from some fake conspiracy website. This is our actual government website for NOAA. Okay. So the purpose of this is to reduce the average global temperature. Box 2 just to the right, it's important. Look at the dates of this contract. This is labeled, it's to begin, so it's backdated because it was signed March 31st of 2023 at the bottom right. It's backdated to February 12th of 2023, so that's when they started the activity. And it's expected, the contract goes through March 23rd of 2223. This is a 200-year-old or 200-year-long contract. They signed this for 200 years. Who did they sign it with? The company who's going to be doing the work is called Making Sunsets Incorporated. You see that over on the left column, third box down where it's handwritten in. Making Sunsets Incorporated, Luke Eisman. That's Iseman. Do your own Googling on this guy. The guy's a fruitcake. And what's interesting is how many articles were written prior to this being signed by even leftist websites warning about this guy and what a kook he is and how his science is very dangerous. Okay. There's tons of articles about him from 2022 of how reckless this guy is and how his science is dangerous by people who believe in fixing climate change. So this isn't, I'm not getting these from conservative websites. This is the left warning about him. Okay. So Making Sunsets Incorporated, Luke Eisman, his founder, they even have his phone number. By the way, I have tried to call that phone number. I got his voicemail. I've tried to call him, but it's on there. It's on the contract. So I won't read it out loud, but if you can read it yourself, feel free to call him. I've yet to get him to answer, to ask him what's the deal here. They have the address of his company on there. And then here we go. Box number 5, the target and control area. So the area that this contract covers, all of the earth, which brings up an interesting point. NOAA is a U.S. government entity. When did they have authority to sign contracts for other countries' airspace? That's a good question, So, and the size of the area, 196,900,000 square miles. Like, this is just so preposterous. And like I said, this is straight from the website. I went to their website and downloaded this. And Legitimate art news agencies like Time also have the same contract printed in their articles. So here's what's interesting. Box number 6, description of the weather modification apparatus, agents, and dispersal rates, techniques, etc. that will be used. Okay, so this is the handwritten part, box 6, kind of in the middle of the page. We are deploying sulfur dioxide, calcium carbonate, and or other proprietary compounds into the stratosphere to offset global warming. Our deployments will occur via balloons and or other aircraft. Deployment rates will vary, peaking at no more than 100 megatons in total per year. Initial flights will occur with as little as 1 milligram mg per flight. Okay, so they're going to start deploying these weather balloons and other things, which it brings up an interesting thing, because we had these weather balloons shortly after this contract was signed is when we started getting the Chinese weather balloons. Makes me wonder, were they Chinese weather balloons, or were they actually part of this program but they didn't want to admit to it? I don't know. Who knows? Then you get into box 7 that gives Luke Eisman's information, his phone number. But here's the concern. Box number 8, those 3 check boxes underneath Luke's name and address. Box 8, all 3 are checked no. So the first one, has an environmental impact statement, federal or state, been filed? They check no. Has provisions been made to acquire the latest forecasts, advisory warnings, etc. of the National Weather Service, Forest Service, or others when issued prior and during operation? So are they going to be checking with these things to see, how will the weather affect them, these different things? Box no is checked. And then last, have any safety precautions, operational constraints, provisions for suspension of operations, monitoring methods, etc., and any environmental guidelines related to the possible effects of the operations been included in the operational plans? Once again, they marked no. They've done no environmental studies to see what spraying this stuff in the atmosphere will do. They don't know if it's safe for animals or human consumption. If it rains and it comes down and enters into our water supply or our food supply, they have done no studies. They don't know. They are not checking with weather when they launch this stuff to see what will be the effect. Where will this stuff blow to? It's all marked no, every single box. That's huge. That's huge. And then you got the signatures on the bottom. Founder of Making Sunsets, Luke Eisman. See his signature, his CEO, his phone number. Everything's there. And it's dated March 31st, 2023. So that's important to remember right there. So I can bring this back up later, but I'm going to show you some other things here. So let's remove that. So who is Luke Eisman? I got so many pages here. Let's see here. I'll share. Let's stop that screen and put up the next screen. So I'll just kind of, I got so many tabs open. I'm not going to have time to go through them all, but we'll pull up a couple. Let's start with the Politico. Once again, not known as a conservative website at all. This was their article. This here is labeled, this is dated earlier this year. This is March of 2024, which I think is roughly around the time of the flooding in Dubai. I could be wrong, but I thought that was around March or April. So NOAA gets dire warning about solar geoengineering. So the agency is being asked to strengthen their rule that requires only a heads up before experiments to modify the weather. So they're going out there doing things, and they're just giving a casual heads up to people, but they're not asking for permission. They're just doing it. And they have all of this gets into here, but here they talk a little bit about it. A U.S. company or citizen with plans to inject aerosols into the atmosphere is required to fill out a one-page form with the Commerce Department only 10 days before they do so. So they just have to give a heads up. They don't have to ask permission. They just do it. There's no governance on the international level, national governance. There's no state governance. There's nothing. And so they're worried about, like, what is this doing? Because here's the thing. If you are doing this, what consequences are you going to have? So, like, for instance, cloud seeding, right? You think, well, what's the big deal? You're just making it rain in this area. But here's the thing. The nature has its own natural pattern that it follows, right? So if I do something to force it to rain in a place where it normally wouldn't rain, I have now pulled that water out of the atmosphere to be used at this point. Because seeding clouds, you're not when it rains, a natural effect is there's dust particles and dirt particles up in the atmosphere, in the air. The moisture up in the air will stick to those dust particles in the air, and slowly become more and more moisture will stick to that until it becomes heavy enough to fall out of the sky. So at the core of every single raindrop is a little piece of dirt. That's why if you leave your car out and it rains, and then when it dries, you see little dirt spots everywhere, because moisture has collected around a dust particle or a dirt particle, and then it falls. So when you seed the clouds, you're putting something up in there, it's gathering, and then it rains down. So you're pulling the atmosphere out of the sky to fall here. Well, that natural weather would have moved on and rained somewhere else. So now that place that should be getting the rain naturally isn't going to get the rain because the moisture got pulled out prematurely and fell somewhere else. So while, yes, you are creating rain in a certain area, you're also denying rain from another area. And that's important to remember. Water is not just being created to provide in one spot. It's also being pulled from somewhere else. So every action has a reaction. Forcing it to rain one place will cause a reaction of no rain somewhere else. And that can be a powerful tool in the long run. Governments could force it to rain in certain areas, purposely creating a drought in another area. If you know the weather patterns, that will happen, right? So cloud seeding is one way of manipulating the weather. Another way is they're putting these particles in the air through making sunsets, and they are designed. They're these metallic like particles with a reflective quality, and what they're designed to do is cause rays of the sun to reflect back out into space, so that those rays don't hit the Earth and theoretically will cool the planet by reflecting that energy out. What is the long-term effect of that? What if you put too many particles up and you create, let's say it actually works. It's kind of the premise of the Chris Evans movie, the the Polar Express. It's not the Polar Express. Ice. It's the one where they're all on the train and they're stuck on the train and it's just going round and round and round because there's a global ice age that occurred. Well, the premise of it is they tampered with the environment to fix global warming, and they went too far and they accidentally created a global ice age. Well, let's say this whole premise of this contract works. Well, it's never been done before. According to their boxes that they checked no to, they did no environmental studies, nothing to figure out what will happen if they do this. What if they go too far and put too much up? Then what? Then we might shift us into a global ice age because we got Luke Eisman, which every outlet out there says he's dangerous and is reckless with his science. Luke Eisman is just pouring stuff up in the atmosphere to save the planet from global warming. Well, if he does too much and we go too far, then what do we do? How do we fix that? I mean, do we have to go up and collect it all from the atmosphere? Does it naturally rain down? Like I said, if it naturally does come down, then what? It's in our water supply, it's in our food supply. They did no studies to find out if it's safe for human or animal consumption. So, or what about breathing it in? Is it in our atmosphere down here? We're just breathing this crap in? Who knows? No one knows. Luke Eisman doesn't know. He did no studies, none at all. I also heard this is also part of why we have seen an increase in satellite issues with during solar flares, is because of all these metallic particles we have floating up there now are causing disruptions they weren't anticipating. Now that I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that. But who knows? But anyways, let's see another article about this Luke Eisman. Who is he? Why is it we are let's see this one. Let's share this one. StreamYard. This is the Daily Beast, also not known as a conservative site at all. Okay. Now, what's interesting, remember, this contract was signed March of 2023. Okay. Let's see. This is dated December of 2022. So this is what's interesting. A lot of these left-leaning groups were actually very much against the company making sunsets and Luke Eisman. This climate startup's rogue plan to manipulate the weather is horrifying. Client, oops. It's making me log in. I don't want to log in. It's not going to let me scroll. Let me earlier. Nope, it's not doing it. Anyways, it gets into how this is untested. There's no idea what would happen, what the proper quantities are. Is it safe? No one knows. So that's another article written prior, just 3 months before NOAA signed him a 200-year contract to do this. Let's find another one here. Let's find another article that I have pulled up. I think this one is also so this one is dated, this one's from earlier this year. This has to do with the Dubai stuff, like I said. This is in the Atlantic, also not known as a conservative article company at all. Playing God with the atmosphere. Interfering with the Earth's climate system is becoming more possible and less predictable than ever. And this was from Dubai, April 17th. So I was saying it was March or April this year. They messed up with their cloud seeding, did too much, and they got like a year and a half's worth of rainfall in 24 hours, causing massive flooding. And, the articles go on and on. I'll just share a couple more here. This was from MIT, this one. Startup says it's begun releasing particles into the atmosphere in an effort to tweak the climate. So this is them talking about confirming that they got the contract. This was written back in December of 2022. So this was leading up to it. Making Sunsets is already attempting to earn revenue for geoengineering, a move likely to provoke widespread criticism. So a lot of stuff was coming out around December because they were starting to announce they were going to start doing this. And a lot of companies are doing it. So here they're talking to that Luke Eisman, co-founder and CEO of Making Sunsets. He acknowledges the effort is part entrepreneurial, part provocation, and an act of geoengineering activism. So this is we joke / not joke that this is partly a company and partly a cult. That's how he describes the company Making Sunsets. His own company, he describes as partly a company and partly a cult. These are the people who have a 200-year contract to throw crap up in the air to fix the global warming. Even though they've done no studies, nothing. They have no idea what will happen. But let's give them authority over all the earth to pour this stuff in there. It's not it's not something to toy with, you know. This is somebody who is criticizing it. The current state of science is not good enough to either reject or to accept, let alone implement solar geoengineering. This is a Janos Pastor, executive director of the Carnegie Climate Governance Initiative. So they were calling for oversight and different things on that. So, you know, it's a dangerous field that they're getting into with no knowledge of doing it. Let's throw up another one here. Let's do this one. So this one is from February of 2023, February 21st, which is interesting because here, let me put this up on. So this was February 21st of 2023. February 12th of 2023 is when, according to the contract, they started putting the stuff in the air. And then March of 2023 is when this contract was signed. But inside a controversial startup's risky attempt to control our climate. And this just gets into this. And this is how they describe them. This is Time magazine, okay? And actually, if I go down here, I just want to show the contract that I shared from NOAA that I had downloaded. I believe this article doesn't have it. Darn it. It must be a different one. Time magazine published the contract in their thing. But anyways, Luke Eisman, an innovator, renegade, or charlatan, depending on who you ask, but certainly the biggest climate tech troublemaker in recent memory, is sitting cross-legged on the floor of a Nevada hotel room. Mohawk bent over a laptop, speaking on the phone with the FAA. It's the morning of February 12th, and Eisman says he's in the last phase of dotting his I's and crossing his T's, legally speaking, before he releases 3 large weather balloons containing chemicals intended to reflect the sun's rays back into space. The first test of the controversial climate technology in the US. So this is his very first test. February 12th is the first time he's doing any testing at all to see what it does. Yet the 21st, I'm sorry, February 12th was the start of the contract. February 12th was his first launch. And that's his first launch. And then a month later, they signed him to a 200-year contract. He hadn't done a single test prior to his first launch of releasing the stuff in the air. It's crazy. The FAA call goes off without a hitch. They don't ask him what the balloons are for, and Eisman doesn't tell him. This is going to go effing smoothly, maybe, he says. Does that sound like some guy? Like, this is going to go effing smoothly, maybe, with his Mohawk. Or everyone's going to say, yeah, you should be fine. Then we launch. A effing jet comes and shoots it down, which, like I said, this is roughly the same time as the Chinese balloon incident. So it does make me wonder. And if you look, when they did shoot the balloon down, you saw these particles go out. So was it actually a Chinese balloon? Or was it a balloon of this, because they were launching weather balloons to put this stuff up in the atmosphere, and there was an error, and then the cover story was it was a Chinese spy balloon, but really it was one of their weather balloons. We don't know. You know, they might not have wanted us to know that they had a 200-year contract covering all the earth for an untested item, you know? It's just absolutely crazy that they do that. And actually, I had printed off that Politico story. I'll have to find it again. It's the Politico story with the copy of the contract. So I will find that just to prove I did not make this up. This is in other contracts. And then, like, here he is here. This guy These guys, this is their testing. They're using a grill. This is the science right here. They're using a grill to burn sulfur powder and capture the smoke in a plastic bag. There you go, people. There's the science that has allowed for this 200-year contract to be signed, and them pouring crap into our atmosphere for the next 200 years. I mean, does this look like the people that come on, they're using a freaking Weber grill, a Home Depot bucket, and a garbage bag. This is the science. People need to wake up. You know, he returns to his attention to the pressure cooker. F yes. I can't believe this is working. This is February 12th, the day they allowed him to start. And this is his, oh, F yes. I can't believe this is working. This is the guy. Is this stuff falling in our food, into our water supply? We don't know. No one knows. The notion of spraying chemicals into the atmosphere, known as stratospheric aerosol injection, SAI, is an old controversial idea in climate science. For decades, a consensus held that it wasn't worth looking into the idea seriously because the potential side effects of acid rain, damage to the ozone layer, changes to weather patterns, and could cause agricultural harm, could be as bad as the problem it was meant to solve. So the experts, prior to this guy standing outside with his grill, the expert said, don't do this. We're going to have acid rain, damage to the ozone layer, changes to our weather pattern, and damage to our agriculture. But hey, why not? This guy has an effing Weber grill going with a Home Depot bucket and a garbage bag. Yeah, that's who we need to sign a 200-year contract to. And this is our government. And how much are they paying him? That's the real question. I mean, no, but nobody cares. Nobody's looking into this. No, it's just like, oh well, climate change. If you slap the name climate change on anything, people just ignore it. It's like, well, it's in the name of climate change. Here's what else the experts at the time were saying. There's also the possibility that such research could create a moral hazard, enabling polluting nations and companies to claim that they didn't really need to cut emissions because we could just dose the sky with billions of tons of sulfur dioxide. It's just crazy. And then it goes on and on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here we go. Here's another one. But hey, he has a GoPro camera set up that followed one of the balloons. So hey, the guy's obviously good. There he is. Luke Eisman on the left, and then his co-founder, Andrew Song. But hey, there's science for you, right? F yeah, man. F yeah. We got a garbage bag. We got good science here. Don't question it because it's for global warming. It's just so freaking ridiculous what's being allowed. You know, if you look up Luke Eisman, you can find him on LinkedIn, and it's verified, but he doesn't use it. Not from I can see. Show all activity. Let's see. He has no post. Oh, let's see. 9 years. His last post was 9 years ago, so he obviously doesn't use his LinkedIn, but it is got the verified mark on it. So let's see. Last thing. Mexico. So like I said before, so we got the National Oceanic Group there, NOAA, our government agency, signing a 200-year contract authorizing this guy to spray this crap over all the earth, which raises questions like, what authority do they have on these things? Well, evidently Mexico wasn't too happy about it, and they put a stop to it, saying you can't fly over us. But the thing is, even if you change the weather patterns here or in other places, like I said before, there's consequences down the road. So when you are making, our weather patterns are based upon high pressure, low pressure systems, hot and cool areas. It creates a flow to our weather. So if you start messing with the weather or the temperature in one spot, it's going to cause the jet stream to change direction, and then weather patterns will move, and it'll make it harder to predict down the road. Like this summer in Michigan has been very weird. This year, it's not a normal rain pattern we've had here at all, and it just makes me wonder. And I don't have time to. Well, I do have a little bit of time. Let's see if I can find it. There's a weather altering device that uses like sonic waves, and it projects up into the upper atmosphere, and it causes shifts in the weather pattern. And what's interesting about that is the way these waves go in testing, and when you use it against smoke and other things, it causes this choppiness to it. So instead of a nice puffy cloud, it kind of tears up the cloud, and you get these wispy lines, and the cloud is kind of spread out with these wispy lines through it. Ever since I read that's the effect it has on the clouds, I look at the clouds now, and it's so often that's what you see is these chopped up lines in the clouds where the cloud got broken apart by these waves. And that's another type of weather manipulation they're doing. So we have all these groups doing their own weather experiments, and we're all the guinea pigs. And the other problem is when you have all these different groups doing things: cloud seeding, sulfur dioxide in the air, sonic waves to bust up the weather pattern. You do it here, but then it causes alterations, and then somebody else's experiments causing alterations. What happens when the side effects of those different experiments start colliding? What happens then? We are playing with stuff we shouldn't be playing with, all in the name of saving the planet. And when you have people getting 200-year contracts with no true science behind them, it's not good. Let's see. I'm going to pull up that Politico website again just to see, is it still there? Yep. Okay. So I wanted to pull this up just to prove I'm not just making up this. I wish I had the exact link, but they make it very convoluted to find in the NOAA website. So here's that Politico story again. Like I said, Politico is not known as a conservative leading group. This was earlier this year. This came about with the we had all the flooding going on and all this stuff in Dubai. But this is not conspiracy theory. It is happening, as this article talks about. And here's where there it is there. That is a direct link to the contract in the NOAA website. So that's where it is. So you can see it there as well, just as it's the exact same contract that I have printed off here. It's the same one I have a PDF of. And, this is absolutely ridiculous that this is being allowed. And, here, there are no plans underway to establish a comprehensive research program focused on solar radiation modification, but they're doing it anyways. They're not going to research it. They're just spraying this crap up in the atmosphere. And as it says, 100 megatons per year. Well, I don't know. Is that a lot? Is that not? I don't know. Is that concentrated in one area? Or is, because I can't imagine they have actual authority to go over the whole Earth. So there you have it. That's the weather modification stuff. It's just keep that in mind. We should be demanding answers. We should have more than a 10-day notice. It should have to be reviewed. If they're going to do a study on the effects of this, they should have to get permission. They should have to review weather reports and other things to see where is the fallout. Okay, if you're going to do this here, what's the path being affected? Like I said, not our whole planet is what's called a closed system. We're not creating new water out of nothing. It's fixed, the amount. Unless some asteroid comes in and crashes into our planet filled with ice and gives us billions of gallons more water. But otherwise, we're a closed system. So if you make it rain here, you've pulled that water out of the atmosphere so it rains. Now the place that water was going to is not going to rain. They're going to be denied rain. So if that area has crops or other things, you might be creating a drought somewhere else. Also the weather, it's based upon predictable patterns of our high pressure systems, low pressure systems, those kind of things, the jet stream. If everybody's doing their own experiments to alter the weather, those predictions go out the window. And they're all playing God with our atmosphere. And every time they screw up, they then claim global climate change. We need more rules, more stuff, more this, more that. Meanwhile, we're writing contracts to these people who shouldn't be getting contracts. Who knows how many millions or billions they're making, and based on what qualifications? There was no vetting process, nothing. Like I said, the day this contract started, according to that other article, was the same day they did their first experiment. Do with that information what you want. Anyways, that's it. That's it on this end. There's other stuff out there too, but do your own research. Luke Eisman, Iseman. You can do your own Googling of him. This is all real stuff. It's all being allowed, and when you read, the more you read, the scarier it gets. And we as citizens need to demand knowledge of when this stuff is happening. We need to demand that they have to get permissions. We need studies on what areas will be affected whenever they launch this stuff. We need to know, is it safe in our drinking water or in the air we breathe or in the food supply? Is there cancer-causing agents in this? No one knows. No one knows. So anyways, keep that in mind. We need to demand answers. We really should be demanding this ends now, all weather manipulation. We need to allow the earth to be itself. The earth has survived for a long time. Doesn't need us sending these particles up at all. Anyways, that's it. Next week, Brett will be joining us. We'll get back into fun topics. We'll talk about his adventures with the Detroit Lions at their practice, his adventures with Kevin out in Tampa Bay. We'll talk some more other fun entertainment news. So take care, everyone. God bless. Take care.